Hello lovely people and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking about makeup brushes. And I'm going to specifically be talking about makeup brushes for beginners. So these are kind of like the top 5 essential brushes that I would recommend to buy if you're starting out with makeup. Alright, so the first group of brushes that I'm going to be talking about are foundation brushes. Depending on the foundation that you use will depend on the foundation brush that you use. So if you prefer using your fingers, awesome, don't even worry about using a makeup brush. Use your fingers, by all means, go for it. If you do want to use a brush, I would recommend something like this. If you're using liquid foundations that are a medium to full coverage, which basically means they're a little bit thicker. So they're not like a really light coverage foundation. So anything that you can kind of buff your foundation into the skin with is something that I'd recommend. So I've got one from Hourglass, the number 7 little buffing brush, and then another one from BH Cosmetics. Both of these work equally as well as each other. If you're using a powder foundation, then I'd probably use a similar kind of brush to this, except generally like a natural haired brush will work a little bit better, because the brush hairs are going to grab to the powder particles a little bit more, so you're going to be able to get a little bit more on there and really work it in. But honestly, you can go either or, both will work just as well. One that I don't have here that I think would also be really good if you just like to wear a very light coverage foundation, so something that's not going to look heavy on the skin, that's very lightweight, a flat foundation brush is going to work really well. So it's kind of like this, but a lot bigger. Next up, we have powder and bronzing brushes. So I definitely think that you can use the same brush to set your foundation and to apply bronzer as well. That's actually what I do, so I use this one here. This one is from Hakuhodo. This was pretty expensive. I think this was around like the $100 mark. Yeah, so it was quite expensive, but you don't need anything as expensive as this. There's another really good one from Bare Minerals that I use as well, which is a lot more affordable. But really you want something that's nice and big and kind of fluffy, but it's not too big, if that makes sense. So kind of this size works really well. So then what you can do is you can set your, sort of if you do wear a liquid foundation or a cream foundation, you can set that with a powder, with something that's nice and big and fluffy. But then you can also do bronzing on the outer parts of the face, because it's not too big. So the third kind of brush that I'd recommend should kind of look something like either of these two. So generally a blush brush is really good, because what you can do is you can use it for blush, obviously, but you can also use it for contouring. If you want to contour, you can use it to highlight. So you want something that's smaller than your powder brush, so you can have more precision, and it's sort of nice and fluffy as well. You could also use something like this. I think this is really good because it's still nice and fluffy, so you can still use it for blush, but it is kind of small and tapered enough that you can use it as a highlighter and sort of do more of like a contouring action. But to be honest, something that kind of looks like that, so like a blush kind of brush, is awesome because you can use it for a lot of different functions. Alright, and in terms of eye brushes, really I think you can do the majority of eye looks with just 2 brushes. It's kind of funny because I tend to use multiple brushes whenever I do my makeup, but really if it came down to it, these are the 2 that I could basically do most eye looks with. The first one that you want to do is a blending brush. Now these are sort of 3 different kinds of blending brushes. These 2 are pretty similar, and then we have something like this as well. So the reason why you want to use a blending brush is because it allows you to apply a layer of powder to begin with, and then also it allows you to sort of apply and blend it out at the same time, so you're not going to have any really harsh edges for your eyeshadow. So something that's sort of fluffy is really good and it's not too big. So for this one, which is sort of tapered and nice and fluffy, it's still quite small. It means that you can get into the crease and apply and blend out colour at the same time. Another option would be, is this a 217? Yeah. Oh, back in the youth, I remember everyone used to use this brush. I think people still do. So it's the MAC 217 brush. But basically it is a blending brush, but it's still quite small and a little bit dense, which means that you can use it to apply kind of product all over the lid, in the crease, under the eye, but you can also blend it out as well. And the last of the 5 brushes that I would recommend is something like this. So it's a smaller, kind of long, precise brush, if that makes sense. So really it means that you can apply product in smaller areas and kind of build up the product. So brushes like this are really great for precision. It means that you can do an inner corner highlight. It means that you can get under the eye and go, under the eye and kind of smudge out a little bit of liner or add a powder. You can really add definition in the crease. You can apply color with this, and then you can also smudge out eyeliner. So they are my top 5 brushes. There will be an honorable mention in there as well. It's not a brush, it's a sponge. It's a little bit worse to wear. I think I need to get a new one. But your damp sponges are awesome. Not so much for applying foundation. I would still recommend sort of something like this to apply it, but just to go over your foundation, this is really great. And these are really good for any cream products. So if you want more of like a dewy finish and you want to use like a cream highlighter or a cream blush, then that's when something like this would come in handy as opposed to maybe like a brush that's used for powders. So if you prefer more of like your cream products, then I'd probably choose something like that over something like this. So it just kind of depends on the products that you like to use. So I'll have the links to all of the brushes in the description box below, but don't worry too much about wanting to get like the exact same brush. Really, it's just you want something that looks like that. You don't need to go out and buy super expensive brushes to begin with. A lot of the sets, like you can get some really amazing sets that come with a whole heap of brushes, but I mean, they're kind of the top 5 that I'd look out for. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Otherwise, yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye!